Hi, everyone. This is Mystifying Miracles. My name's Kristen. Welcome back. We'll go ahead and get into today's story. I do appreciate all of you guys for watching. I know I'm just a new channel starting up, but I don't know. This is fun, and I love going over these stories that have miracles in them, sometimes more than one. So, again, thanks for joining us, and let's dig in. The story involves a young couple. They're in their 20s, living in Seattle. Their names are Caleb and Penny, and they're newlyweds. And they just have a mission that they want to help people. They're optimistic people. They don't mind getting their hands dirty and just helping whoever needs it. That was always on their hearts. And they knew that they wanted to live in an area when they moved after they were married to a place that just, maybe it wasn't the best part of town. They felt that they could do the best, I guess, how to put that into words. They just felt that they could help people in that because that's what God put on their hearts, if that makes sense. So they moved to this poor part of Seattle, and many of their family, kind of thought they were a bit crazy for moving where they did because they knew this wasn't such a great part of town, high crime rate, whatnot. So they weren't happy about it. But Penny and Caleb, they didn't care. They knew that they were doing what they felt God put on their heart to do. So they did it. Caleb in particular, his heart was big. He actually had gotten a master's degree in sociology at like a big liberal arts school. So before him and Penny got married. So he just had that on his heart that he wanted to help people. That was Caleb's heart. And when he found Penny, she was the same way, so they just went together very well. The first 6 months that they lived in the neighborhood, it was great. Everything went fine. They loved doing like little DIY projects, having potlucks, taking home-baked desserts and goods to their neighbors, that kind of thing. They just enjoyed that and getting to know the people that lived around them. And slowly but surely, the people, some of the neighbors anyway, started to warm up to them and kind of open up, I guess their hearts to Penny and Caleb. One day, an 85-year-old man, his name was Alfonso, he passed away. And that hit Caleb and Penny very hard because they had really gotten to know Alfonso. And they loved him, and they loved elderly people too, As I said earlier, they loved helping. And Alfonso loved them. He enjoyed talking with them and, just them coming over to visit. So when he passed away, it just left this huge hole in their hearts, so to speak. Now, once Alfonso was passed, his adult children ended up selling the house, which saddened, Penny and Caleb. But, that's kind of, one of those things in life that just happens. So they sell the house and it gets sold to a man named Mitch. Mitch made changes. He put locks on all the doors. He ended up putting black plastic over all the windows of the home. So Penny and Caleb were just kind of like, he's a bit different, but that's all right. We'll try to get to know him at some point. Soon enough, after Mitch had moved in, Penny and Caleb started smelling strange things. And soon they knew what was going on. There were strange characters, odd people going in and out of Mitch's house at all hours of the night. The strange smells. Put two and two together, anyone would know. Mitch has probably got a drug, selling whatever you call those things, but he's selling drugs, basically, possibly even making them in the home at this point. So the Nortons, they're Penny and Caleb, they're just kind of like, well, what do you do? One day, Penny was on her way home, pulling up into the drive, and she noticed that, again, we'll just call them hoodlums. Hoodlums in the street, kind of staring at her weird as she's pulling up. She's feeling uneasy. She pulls into their drive, gets out, and as she's getting out of the car, these strange hoodlum men start going up to Penny, and they're just kind of hooting and hollering and just being a little bit vulgar. They're, calling her names, and she's feeling really uncomfortable at this point. So she just gathers her things, gets into the house. Thank goodness she made it into the home safely, locked the door, and she told Caleb about it later. Well, of course, Caleb, that's his wife, he's going to be upset about that. Now he's feeling uneasy. They had ignored Mitch from this point, and they just put up with whatever was going on next door. But now this was too far because some of Mitch's friends or associates are now attacking now they're attacking his wife. Caleb was so uneasy about it, again, as anyone would be, that he decided to call the cops and let them know. Now, he did want to stay anonymous. He didn't want to start any trouble, but at the same time, he didn't want trouble, happening to him or his wife. So he lets the authorities know. The authorities start making rounds, patrolling the neighborhood a little bit more. And they even ended up questioning Mitch a few times. They came back. One of the cops came back to Caleb and let him know, look, we're investigating into this. We're making more patrols. And it looks like, we've gathered that this is probably a meth lab home. So at this point, obviously, this is not good. So Mitch, eventually, because of the cops questioning him, he's on high alert. He's suspicious. He knows there is a snitch in the neighborhood. And you know that saying, snitches get stitches. So, this is kind of a scary situation. His associates, hoodlums, whatever you want to call them, now start yelling obscenities whenever they see Caleb and Penny outside coming and going or trying to do things around their home. They have a sense that, okay, that was the Nortons next door. Let's hassle them. It progressed into more than just yelling and cursing at the Nortons. They even spray painted the pavement in front of their home. They threw trash bins. They even at one point slashed some of Caleb's tires. Caleb and Penny, they're obviously on high alert. They're worried and scared, and this is not, turning out how they expected. It's not like the neighborhood was before Alfonso had passed and moved out of that house. The police, now that they were suspicious of what was going on in Mitch's home, they came down harder on Mitch and his associates. And with that, Mitch came down harder on Penny and Caleb. He even spray painted him and his associates on the front of the Nortons' home. Shut the F up. Spray painted across the front of the house. And at that point, Caleb and Penny were like, that's enough. This is just escalating way too far. We need to go ahead and move. Once I decided that it would be best to move, that's when the first little miracle happened. One day, the Nortons were gone, and when they were gone, Mitch and his hoodlums decided, we're going to break into their home and really show it to them. They wanted to just thrash things about, break things, So they make a break for it, so to speak. The lady that lived behind this row of houses where Mitch and Penny and Caleb lived happened to be home, and she was a witness to this. So this is how we know what happened. She saw them as they grouped up and tried to break in to the door. And as they were trying their hardest, imagine men, big men, just trying to barge through the door any way they can, trying any way just to bust through so they can get in and wreak havoc on this home. Well, at one point, the woman, the witness, heard these thugs and the hoodlums, I guess, talking amongst themselves. And as they couldn't open the door, they were like, there must be some sort of metal or another metal door that Caleb installed behind this door, because why else couldn't we bust through this thing? There was no metal behind that door. Something or someone was protecting that home and not allowing that door to be kicked in, pushed in, or anything. And there was nothing extraordinary. It was just a normal door. In fact, after the fact, Caleb was so confused because the door was actually flimsy. He had already been before they decided to move, he wanted to change out that door because it was so old and flimsy. So why weren't these thugs, why weren't they able to kick it in and do what they were going to do? So you got to think of that. I see that as a miracle, definitely. And they don't stop there. Many weeks later, miracle number 2 happened. Police happened to be investigating the drug operation, and at this point in time, Mitch was actually in jail. And of course, he was in jail on drug charges. His associates, though, were still free at this time. The Nortons, they had their house up for sale, but the market at this point in time was just awful. And they weren't able to move just quite yet. So they were still stuck in this house with these dangerous people next door, unfortunately. Even if Mitch was in jail, his associates, hoodlums, if you will, they were still just as dangerous. And one night, one of these associates, aka hoodlums, threw a Molotov cocktail through the front window of the Nortons' home. If any of you don't know what a Molotov cocktail, it's sort of like this makeshift bottle that's made to, it's got, I don't know exactly how it's made, but it's kind of like if you've seen in video games or something of like a glass bottle, they put lighter fluid of some sort and a rag, they light it up, throw it through so it whatever they're throwing it at bursts into flames. Well, they do this, goes through the front window, and these hoodlum guys are thinking, yes, we're going to set their house ablaze. Once this Molotov cocktail is thrown through their window, you would expect everything to burst into flames, right? Well, it didn't, because when it went through the window, it actually landed in a metal bucket. And the metal bucket had been on the floor, and Penny and Caleb had used that to clean the ashes out of their wood-burning stove. So when it went in, those ashes that were in there, it just kind of poof, went out. Nothing burst into flames like these guys expected to at all. So, excellent. Another miracle there. And of course, after something like this happens, Caleb and Penny still weren't able to sell their home at this point because of the market. So they thought, we got to get out of here. So they packed up some things and they actually went to go live with some friends across town in a better part of town while they waited for, hopefully their house to sell. They knew they couldn't stay there. Things were at this point just getting way too dangerous. The night before they left to go move in with these friends, that's when miracle number 3 happened. They had just fixed, the front window that had been broken from when those guys threw that Molotov thing. So just fixed, everything good. They're excited to the next day hopefully get out of there and just be able to visit with friends at the same time and just finally feel safe. Penny she was looking out that newly fixed window and she saw a car start to pull up. There was a guy that was in the back. and the window started to go down, and she saw him stick his hand out the window. When he did that, he actually pulled out a handgun and actually pointed it at Penny. And you can imagine this is all happening so fast, and she's probably just terrified in a matter of seconds. Like, what do I do? You know, as this was happening fast, he rolls down the window, points it out. She didn't have time to really think or do much, but he fires it at her, pointing at her as she's standing there at the window. And she hears it go off. She hears the bullet coming, and she saw the flash too as he had shot. But nothing happened. It didn't come through the window. And actually, she heard it hit off like a metal part of the frame. So she was just kind of probably like, what? What just happened here? And no sooner is she's thinking that, she hears the man in the back of the car that actually fired the weapon start screaming out in pain. What happened is it somehow ricocheted off a portion of the frame of the window, and the bullet bounced off somehow and actually hit the shooter instead of going through the front window. Penny has no idea how this happened, what just occurred. All she can surmise at this point is that God was watching out for her again and saved her life. Did not even hurt even the house. So that was miracle number 3. Penny and Caleb, they were able to get their things, get out of there, and make it to their friend's home to live with them until hopefully their house would be able to sell. A few weeks had passed, and they had been living there with their buddies. And the housing market, it was still awful at that point in time. But lo and behold, a member of their church actually came through. They bought the house, the Norton's home. They wanted to use it as a rental. Not sure if they wanted to use that as a rental for the church or for themselves. But in any case, they bought the house, what the asking price was. And, you know, obviously the Nortons, they were ecstatic that their house was able to sell and that God used a church member to be able to help this person who was buying it. They, for whatever reason, but also the big miracle was it finally helped the Nortons. They were going to be able to buy a home and get into their own place. So they were ecstatic. And they had tried so long to sell that house, and it just wasn't going anywhere. Just kind of wrapping it up, the end of the story here. Penny and Caleb, they were able to move into a new neighborhood. They chose another poor neighborhood, but they did their research this time, and they made sure that all safety measures were taken, and they wanted to still live their lives for God and helping the low-income communities. So that's what they did. They moved into another area, and, they didn't have these worries, these extra things that they were having in the old neighborhood. Thinking back and talking to others to this day, Penny and Caleb, they still are just firm belief that God watched out for them and possibly even used his angels to help them and protect them during all these things that they were going through. So just really cool. Bunch of little miracles in this one as well. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And if you did, please like and subscribe. I really, really appreciate those of you who've been watching every episode every week. It's just really cool. And I just enjoy doing this. And these miracles are near and dear to my heart. They mean a lot to me. And I hope they're interesting to you too. Thank you so much for watching. Till next time, see you guys later.